This Mother's Day, make sure to give that special woman in your life the greatest gift in the world, a temporary restraining order. So if you ever lost your wallet and locked the most important woman in your life in a room and screamed at her at the top of your lungs, make up for it this year instead of the same old Hallmark cards, flowers, and brunch. Get your mom what she really wants, that treasured TPO. Here in DeKalb County, we will ensure Mom gets that special order that she has so desired because you are such hateful little bitch. So head on over to Judge Davis Zoom, and we will throw you on the docket. And if you come within a 1,000 feet of Mom, we will also throw you in the slammer.
And how long had he been living with you at that location?
3 years.
What happened to, why did you file for order of protection?
Because he would get upset about something, and then he would say bad words to me, curse words and stuff, and it was very undone. I didn't like it. And when my husband was alive, he called the cops on him one time, and they came over and he settled down. So but that's what I've been living with.
So when you say your husband called the cops one time, were you present for that time? Ma'am? Oh, she might be frozen.
At me, but just throwing things and stuff. He was out of his mind.
Okay, around when was this? This year, last year, or well, obviously it was last year, but last year, the year before.
Stuff that was on the floor, maybe. I don't know. And he was upset. He was upset with me. He was always upset with me.
He was upset with you. Do you remember why or what led up to it?
I don't know why.
Okay. And so when he got upset, was he saying anything in addition to throwing things around?
Actually, I think his father was out here with him, and that's why he called the police. I was in the bedroom, and I didn't see what was exactly going on, but we did it. Okay. And they came over, and he simmered down then, and I think he's sick. I've always thought that he needs some help.
So were you in fear for your safety at that time?
No, he never touched me.
Okay.
He just said a lot of ugly things to me.
Okay. And so what has happened since then?
He's gone.
Well, I mean, before he left the house.
Yeah. Oh, well, he slammed his door when he was upset with me. He would say ugly words to me, curse words, and all that kind of stuff. And I don't go for. I mean, I don't curse. Okay. And he did, and he scared me a couple of times by what he was saying.
So tell me about the times that he scared you. What happened?
Well, I locked my door because I didn't want him to. This is after his dad died, and I didn't want him to come in my room and start over, again. And he came in the room anyway, and it was locked. And he figured out how to get in, and that scared me.
What would he do when he came in the room?
Just told him to get out. He got out.
But what was he saying or doing, if anything, when he came in the room?
I don't know. He was just going on and on. I don't know.
So so I'm asking these because
it was there were curse words that I don't like.
So I understand that. So just let me explain why I'm saying what I'm saying. So I have to be able to find factual specifics either way. And so I'm asking these questions because generalizations are not usually I need to know more.
Well,
So
he
you
came
said you were in fear. What was making you feel like you were in fear?
because he was screaming at me.
Okay, so his voice was raised.
Yeah, and he was doing the usual, you know, words that he used.
And how long would this go on?
I don't know, not too long, but it
And
was.
so when that happened, what would you do?
I would tell him to get out of my room, and he did.
Okay.
And then I called my other son to tell him that I was afraid.
Okay. And so when you called your other son, what happened?
He left.
The Scott Jeffrey?
Yeah, Scott Jeffrey left.
Okay.
I was in mourning for my husband, and it was hard to be treated like that. But he had a good side.
No, you just froze. See if we get her back. Not, we might have to pause until she can be brought back in.
I froze.
There we go. Yes, you did. You were frozen. I'm sorry. You had mentioned that you had been in mourning for your husband.
Before. Yes, and I couldn't really mourn because it was always something else going on here, and he was helpful in the facts that he did a lot of cooking and worked in the kitchen for me and did the floors and stuff. But then the next day it could be anything, you know, it could be anything that he told me one time that he hated me.
Okay. How often would these incidents happen? Sorry, did you hear me? How often would these incidents happen?
Frequently, but
Okay.
not every day. I mean, or anything like that, just frequently. And I knew when they were going to start because he'd said, I want to talk to you. And then he would go crazy. So I just,
And
never-
when
he never touched me though. He never put his
okay,
hands.
well, there's different types of family violence
I
that
understand.
are under the statute. And physically harming someone is one of them. But I have to look at all of them. So you mentioned in your petition him threatening to kill himself at some point.
Yes.
Can you tell me what that is about? Well, she's frozen. I don't know if she can move closer to a Wi-Fi modem. There we go. You're back.
Yes.
Can you tell me what that was about? You're back.
I don't know. I don't know. When he said something and then he went outside and he said, I'm going to jump off the thing outside, and then he got a knife one time and put it to his neck, but I knew he wouldn't do it.
Okay.
Because I know him and I love him.
And did that place you in fear though for what was happening or no?
No, not at all. Not at all, because I know him. He wouldn't do that.
Okay. What was going on before he would do these things?
He was jumping around and everything and talking to me ugly. And I never really talked ugly back to him, but I did a couple of times because I couldn't take it.
Are these times when his voice was raised or not?
It wasn't always raised, but it was very, very horrible, the things that he was saying.
Okay. All right. Are you asking? Oh, go ahead, ma'am.
I believe in God, and he kept saying, God damn, God damn, God damn, and I couldn't take that.
So are you asking this court to extend this order for 12 months?
Yes.
Do you feel if the order is not extended, there may be future acts of similar
No, he's not
incidents
coming.
placing you in fear?
No, no, he hasn't gotten a hold of me since it's been done, since this
Since
was
the
done.
order's been in place?
Right.
Okay. Are you asking the court to extend this order so that that remains true?
Yes.
Okay. Do you have any witnesses or evidence you would like the court to hear from?
No, he died. It was always in our house, never out. Well, one time he did do something.
Okay.
Okay.
All right.
That's it.
So at this point, before I proceed to Miss Kimberly Jeffrey, I'm going to ask Mr. Scott Jeffrey.
Yes, ma'am.
And sorry, I have to do everybody's full names, but everybody here is Jeffrey. So,
Yes, ma'am.
if you have any specific questions you would like me to ask your mother
Specific questions?
about what she testified to,
Okay.
knowing
the
you'll
fact-
have a chance to tell me everything you want. So it's not, I don't agree with it, but just
No, yes, ma'am.
specific
I
factual
get it.
questions. Okay.
Specifically, when things would happen, like the police, when we talked about that prior, I was told that my dad wanted to do it, and my mom said, I really don't want to do that. And actually, when that happened that day, I actually ended up leaving and got to the front of the neighborhood. So I actually stopped up there.
So hold on. So you're
sorry.
testifying.
I'm sorry.
That's why I said, so do you
I'm
have
sorry.
a question you would like me to ask her about what she testified?
Just about why why she would always say to me, I don't want to do this to you. She would always tell me, even with the TPO, I don't want to do this to you. So that's really the basis of things, is that I know.
So you're testifying again.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll ask her that question. Okay. And
Yes,
it
ma'am.
may or may not be relevant because doing things but I'll ask the question.
Understood.
Okay. Ma'am, the question is, have you told him that you don't want to be doing these things to him?
Occasionally, but I didn't do it all the time. It just didn't seem right, for me to do that to my child. And that was early on.
Okay.
When my husband was still alive. And after he died, we took care of him here with other people in here. And after he died, Scott got all excited because he didn't want to help. I mean, he helped. He did everything that he had to do for his father. But then, about a couple of weeks later, he was all, I don't have a dad. I was crying.
Well, you just froze.
And stuff, and that was hard to take, but it's gone again.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Mr. Jeffrey, do you have any other questions you would like me to ask her?
Just the basis also is, I guess, is why does she feel like she fears for her life, or why does she feel that she needs to have this extended? Because I'm not interested.
So
basically.
don't testify.
Okay,
You
I'm
can
sorry.
testify in a minute. Now, I think she's already answered those questions.
Okay.
She said she wanted the order extended so that no more incidents happened, so it stayed.
Why? Okay. The question would be, why is she assuming that these incidents will continue?
Okay. So, ma'am, why are you assuming the incidents will continue without an order?
I don't know, but it continued when he was here, and I just can't. I don't know if he's had some help or what's going on, but right now, but because I haven't seen him in a while, and I just don't want to have to deal with that. I'm dealing with other things. I was in a car wreck, and I wrecked my car, and I've got a broken back, and I can't take it. And if it comes out, I don't want to be there.
Okay. Have there been any incidents, ma'am, since the order's been in place?
No.
All right, thank you. All right, do you have any other questions for her, sir?
No, ma'am, it's fine. I'm just was trying to get a couple of those things to make sure that I wasn't hearing things the wrong way, but I appreciate it.
Okay, okay. All right, so I'm gonna mute you, Miss Kathleen, and I'm going to allow Miss Kimberly Jeffrey. You are under oath as you've all been sworn in. I'm gonna ask you to unmute and tell the court why you filed this petition. Well, first, let me ask you to state your name.
Kimberly Jeffrey.
And how do you know Mr. Scott Jeffrey?
He's my brother-in-law.
And how long have you known him?
26 years.
Okay. And why did you file a stalking petition seeking protection under the stalking statute against him?
Our goal is to support Kathy and keep her healthy and safe. And we are on the receiving end frequently of when she gets upset, calling us. She's since January, at least every other week, has requested to sleep at our house so that she can stay safe and be out of that environment.
Let
And
me
while
ask you,
she
was this
there,
before the petition, before her ex parte order was issued?
between January and up until April 14th?
And how many times would you approximately say that you were called
Called on the phone?
about her saying she's not safe?
I would say at least from between January and April, at least 20 times, not necessarily always saying that she's unsafe, but I would be hearing screaming from him in the background, him yelling at her asking him to leave the room when he would unlock the door where she was seeking shelter.
Okay. All right, go ahead. Is specifically any acts that he has committed that's against you?
No, not against me, but when he does text my husband, leave him voicemails. And when she is in our presence, I just don't feel like I'm very safe.
Okay, but has he
So,
made any communications with you specifically?
no, other than in November, when I was on the phone with Kathleen and overheard, she had said that he was screaming at her and yelling at the hospice nurse who was trying to help her husband at the time. And I was driving nearby and I offered to call the police. She asked me not to. When I got there, he was then calling me, trying to explain himself, since he told the hospice nurse that they had to leave and were not taking good care of his father and was asked to leave.
Okay. All right. Is there anything else you want me to know?
I guess we have several witnesses. I don't know that Kathleen necessarily understood when she said the witness was dead. We do have witnesses as well if you are needing them.
Okay, I will
testify
hear
at
from
all.
any witnesses you have. Before I do that, Mr. Jeffrey, do you have any specific, as I said earlier, factual questions you would like me to ask her about what she testified to?
Specifically, when she told me in November, she had mentioned about how in November that something happened. Am I allowed? I'm not allowed to testify. I'm just allowed to ask a question back, correct?
Yeah, you'll have a chance to testify at the end.
Okay.
They're
That
done.
was just, as far as that's concerned, I don't even know what exacerbated that. I don't even know why she's bringing that up. That was the first time I'd
Hold on,
seen
you're
my.
testifying.
Just trying, I know. I'm
No,
trying
tell
to
me the
figure-
questions, and they
Okay,
get to go
the
first.
question
Hold
was,
on, let me
why-
say this.
why
Let me
was
say
she
this.
there?
Hold
Why
on,
was
let me
she-
say that. Sir,
Yes,
hold on.
ma'am.
They get to go first because
ma'am.
they have the burden under the law.
I understand.
They're-
I'm thinking about what they're saying. I apologize.
I understand. If you take notes, you can take notes, but, so
It's
what's your
basically-
question?
The question is, why was she there on that day then? And why did she speak to the social worker and not me?
Okay, Miss Kimberly, Jeffrey, why were you there on that day, I guess in November? And why did you
Sure.
speak to the social worker and not him?
Yes, I took an appointment that day and was driving about 5 minutes away, coming home from my appointment. And Kathleen happened to call me upset that he was yelling at the nurse and asking them to leave. And I said, I'm very close by, let me pop over. And I did. And at that time, the hospice nurse shared with me that she was afraid to go in and has called her boss. She then gave her bosses my number. And then the hospice nurse boss called me. And at that same time, while I was speaking with her, Scott was calling me several times. So that is why I was there.
Okay. And why did you speak with the nurse and not him?
I was outside, he was inside.
Okay. All right, Mr. Scott, any more questions for her?
No, ma'am. I appreciate you.
All right, thank you. Okay, so what witness would you like to call, Miss Kimberly Jeffrey?
Vincent Doran.
All right, if we have Mr. Doran, I'm not sure if he's P witness 1 or 3, or I know he's not 2. See if
I'll
we
bring
can-
him in.
Thank you.
Mhm.
All right, sir, if you could please, all right, and you can lower your hand. Could you state your name, please, sir?
My name is Vincent Joseph Dorn.
All right. And how do you know Kathleen Jeffrey, if at all?
She's my sister.
Okay. And do you know Kimberly Jeffrey as well?
Yes.
Okay. And so is that your niece-in-law?
Kim is my nephew's wife.
There we go. I think that's probably better than niece-in-law, but okay.
Yeah,
So-
I always have a hard time with that one.
All right. So we are here on alleged acts of family violence by Scott Jeffrey against Kathleen Jeffrey. Have you witnessed any acts of family violence by Scott Jeffrey against Kathleen Jeffrey? Or heard?
Yes, in September, Kathy had called me I'm a handyman during the day, and she called me to come over and fix a vent pipe for the dryer. And Kathy lives in a 2-story building, and it has a basement entry level. Before I got to the door, I heard yelling and screaming, and I didn't know where it was coming from. But once I entered the building, I knew it was coming from my nephew, Scott, and he was yelling at his mother at the top of his lungs. There were profanities directed at her, and I stood outside the door for 3 to 4 minutes before I sent her a text to let her know I was there, and listened to this continued beratement of her for that period of time.
Have you?
And
go ahead.
subsequent to that, he did call me and left I think about a 2-minute voicemail, which I understand is petitioner number 4 that is before you.
All right, hold on. So I don't look at any exhibits unless and until they are attempted to be tendered. So, Madam Clerk, can you see if you can pull up petitioner's exhibit? Did you say 2?
It was number 4.
4. Okay, 4. Petitioner's exhibit 4. If it is there. And it may take them a minute to look through.
Sure. And I believe there was another one, number 5 as well too.
Okay, and so what were these exhibits 4 and 5? Are they
And
both?
basically, Scott called me with some ramblings about how I shouldn't be interfering, and just rambles of
Judge, just let me know when you're
just
ready.
talking.
Okay, so is this a voicemail you received on your phone, sir? The one
Yes.
you're referring to as exhibit 4, and has it been altered in any way?
No.
Okay, all right, Madam Clerk, you can pull up Exhibit 4.
Hey, Uncle Vinny, I heard that you were the decision maker and had this grand idea to call my brother and trying to help my mom with me. I want to tell you straight up that I don't talk to you. I don't know you. You've never called me. We've never hung out. We've never done anything together one-on-one. I absolutely have no idea about you. I don't even know why you're getting a divorce. I don't know anything about my cousins anymore, hardly. I don't speak to any of you all. That's the truth. So that being said, I apologize that you had to see what you saw and hear what you saw, or hear what you heard in front of my mom. But I'm not going to have you concern you with my life. At this point, I don't want you to be involved with my brother. I need some space from you. Just don't have you involved with me at all. I don't talk to you. I don't know you. You actually kind of, be honest with you, the way my mom came across, it seemed threatening. So I don't appreciate you kind of coming up with this connotate idea verbatim to say that this is what's going to happen. And it's kind of, you know, a little bit intimidating and a little bit like my mom is going over this over and over and over, and it's going to happen. And absolutely, but you're the cause of this root. So I get it that that's your sister and you're trying to defend, but again, you don't know anything about me, and play this message for whomever, Mark and my mom, if you want, your sister. But I don't know you, and I don't know where you're coming from. I defend people and would do the same thing probably if I heard somebody cuss like that about my sister or I know brother or whatnot. So again, I apologize that you had to hear that. And the last thing I'll say is I was embarrassed being here, and I was embarrassed seeing you, that I had to be here, because I do remember, if you recall, coming over to my mom's house back way, you asked why I was here. So I don't really understand you. I don't know what kind of relationship you're trying to have with me at this point in my life, except just to obviously defend my mom, all due respects, but get my brother involved, who I don't talk to. So again, I just appreciate if you would just leave me alone. I don't have to hear anything about you through my mom anymore. I'll let her know I left you this long, arduous message, Vinny. Okay? Take care, Uncle Vinny. Bye-bye.
And then you said Exhibit 5 is another message. What time is that?
Yes, ma'am.
Around when was that voicemail, and what was it in regard to?
Off the top of my head, I don't remember exactly. I'd have to find it. I believe it was in March.
Of this year?
Sorry.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
And do you remember, so you're saying this was a voicemail he left you. Do you remember what it was in regards to?
Off the top of my head, no. I've saved a bunch of them, and they're all just pretty similar to the
Okay.
one that he's not happy that I'm talking to my sister.
Okay. Are there any admissions made in that audio?
I'm sorry?
Are there any
Were
admissions
there any
made?
what?
Admissions, is he admitting to saying anything to your mother, or is he just telling you he doesn't want you
Well,
to?
to his mother. Well, in that one he did. In the one you just played, he did admit to cussing at her, and he calls her some very horrible names. And afterwards, when I was there that day in September, I did talk to my sister at length about he shouldn't be in her house if he's going to treat her that way. And then later, as I've been talking to her on and off over the next many months, anytime she was in her room, I could hear him outside the door threatening to come in. And sometimes he did break into her room, and I'd say, Scott, you need to leave. My door was locked. You don't need to be in my room. So she had no privacy in her home.
And would those things you ever heard, were those this year?
Yes.
All right. Any questions you would like me to ask this witness, Miss Kimberly Jeffrey, or you may ask this witness question since they're not another party.
To ask to Vincent Doran, I guess other times he's just said that he's heard her on the phone as well. But we've even been together when
This is not a time for testifying, just a time as a question.
I guess that was it.
Okay. All right. Mr. Jeffrey Scott, any questions you have, or Scott Jeffrey, I'm sorry, any questions you have for this witness?
Yes, ma'am. I actually I've failed to do this because I've been on my own defense and I'm by myself. Is it okay to ask why he left the voicemail he did for me? And he'll
Okay.
know what I'm referring to.
Okay.
After, let's see, since I'm 50, almost 2, he left me a voicemail about something that happened probably 40 years ago. Why did he leave me a voicemail about that?
All right. Did you leave, Mr. Doran, did you leave a voicemail for Mr. Scott Jeffrey about something that happened many years ago? And if so, why?
Yes, I did, Judge. Yes, I did, because he had called me and wanted to know why we had no relationship. And the reason we had a relationship was that he abused my oldest daughter when she was very young.
Any other question, Mr. Scott Jeffrey?
No, ma'am, not at all.
Okay. All right. Ms. Kathleen Jeffrey, do you have any questions for this witness, Mr. Doran? You can, sorry, I know it's tough for you to reach the camera.
Take the mute off.
I don't know where it is. There
There
it
you
is.
go. You got it.
I got it, yeah.
Okay. Any questions for this witness, ma'am,
No.
about anything he's witnessed or seen? Okay. All right. May this witness be excused? All right. I'm going to take that as a yes. So, sir, you may be excused.
I'm sorry.
That's all right. You may be
Okay.
excused. Do you have any other witnesses, Miss Kimberly Jeffrey?
Yes, Nancy, please.
All right, I'll let staff see if they can figure out.
Recording in progress.
Okay, there we go.
And we will be asking, can I ask for petition numbers to be pulled up too?
Exhibit numbers?
Yes, thank you.
We can, but she still has to testify first. So, let me get her. Ma'am, can you please raise your right hand and unmute, or let me unmute and then raise your right hand if you're ready. All right, you just need to unmute. Let me see if I can prompt you. There we go. All right, can you, do you solemnly swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth under penalty of perjury?
I do.
All right, you can lower your hand. Can you please, state your name for the record?
Nancy Sampson.
Okay, and how do you know, if you know, Kathleen Jeffrey?
She's my neighbor. She lives in the community that I am the property manager for.
Okay, and do you know, how long have you known her?
Since they moved in the community, I have lived here since 2010, and I believe they've lived here for 6 years.
Okay, and do you know, Scott Jeffrey?
Yes, I do,
How long have you known him?
as long as they have lived here.
Okay, and do you know Kimberly Jeffrey?
Yes, I do.
And how long have you known her?
As long as I've known Scott and Mark and Kathleen.
Okay. Have you witnessed any acts of violence or threats by respondent against
Very many.
either petitioner?
I have had to call the police at least 3 times on Scott for his behavior.
And did those involve either of the petitioners, either of the Kathleen or Kimberly Jeffrey?
The recent one, the latest ones has involved his mother.
All right, can you tell me around when that was and what happened?
A couple of weeks ago, I had to call the police. I heard his mother screaming. I happened to be on the lower level, and she was screaming to the top of her lungs, "Help me, someone call the police." And she just kept telling Scott to, no, leave me alone.
Did the police come out?
Yes. My neighbor who I was with and who I was visiting also heard the same conversation. It alarmed me so much because I had been watching out for her, well, for her and for Mark Sr., but especially for Kathleen, since her husband had died. And on this particular day, her son, Scott, it sounded like he had jumped on her and was threatening her. And it had gotten to a point where he had even gotten her out on the patio that you could hear her from the outside.
Did you hear anything specifically that he was saying?
He was threatening her, cursing at her, saying very negative sentences to her, cursing at her. I came up to the top level and I could hear the curse words. This is not the first time. They go belligerent to her, and she is very afraid.
Okay.
So this particular time, 2 weeks ago, I took it upon myself. I said, I'm not taking it anymore, and I called the police. The police came in and they asked me if he was on drugs. Well, it may not have been 2 weeks ago. It may have been 3 or 4 weeks ago. I'm not for sure about the date in particular because I did not write it down, but I know there is a report that has been made. And they asked me if he was on any kind of drugs. So I don't know if he was on drugs because they did look at him and could tell from his eyes that he was on something.
Did you see and speak with Miss Kathleen Jeffrey after that, when the police arrived?
Yes, I did.
What was her demeanor at that time?
Well, she seemed very fearful.
Okay. All right. Okay, so Miss Kimberly Jeffrey, do you have any questions you would like me to ask this witness? Or you can ask her some questions since she's not another party, or any exhibits related to this witness.
Also, could I add to this?
Yes, ma'am.
That Scott has also attacked our vendors. We have landscapers and people who come and cut down trees. We have a lot of vendors who come to the property. And every time he runs up on them, and also he has just different negative things to say. The last one was a couple of months ago where our landscaper, I had to leave my doctor's appointment and come home because this particular vendor sent me a text and told me that he was going to leave because Scott had run up on him. And he said that he was going to leave because he wasn't going to take this. That Scott had said that he was going to call the police on him and he was going to leave.
So were either
He
of these
jumped in the
petitioners,
face.
so hold on, were either of these petitioners present for any of that?
No,
Okay, so that would have to be taken care of in another
okay.
court forum.
But
Right now,
I'm
we're
just
very.
saying
Mhm,
that
go
this
ahead.
is kind of stuff that he does.
Okay. All right. Ms. Kimberly Jeffrey, do you have any questions or exhibits for this witness?
Well, exhibit 6 and 7,
Can
please.
you tell me what those are before we pull them up?
Yes, police reports.
Okay. And who made these police reports?
What do you mean when you say who made them?
Who called the police?
I believe in the first one, Mark Jeffrey Sr. And in the last one, it was Nancy.
Okay, so I think you can pull up the one with Nancy. the one with, unless Nancy was present for any of the second one, I'm not sure that that one would be appropriate through this witness.
That would be Exhibit 7, if that's what you're asking,
Okay.
on April 11th of 2023.
Okay.
That's the
Madam Clerk,
one.
could you please pull that up for us? All right, so is this the police report that, and Miss,
Yes.
all right. And what would you like to ask her about the police report?
Could you scroll down to page 4, I think it is, or the last page that. Here we go. Let me just glance at it, sorry. I guess at the bottom, it says that while on scene, the police also made contact with another neighbor, James Berto, who
Yes.
stated that Scott displays this type of behavior constantly towards
Okay,
Kathleen.
so
and-
that's gonna be hearsay unless that witness is present,
Okay,
okay? But I will note that it admitted for the purposes that a police report was filed in this case, and the
Mhm.
police did respond.
okay.
All right, okay. Any other exhibits or witnesses? Or I guess, or questions for this witness?
Is it appropriate for me to, I mean, the question was brought up, I heard, by the police to know if he was on drugs, but I'm just curious to know if Nancy can say if she's smelled or seen drugs.
So
From-
that will not necessarily relate to family violence. It's not an act of family violence to be on drugs or to use drugs, so I'm not sure it's necessarily relevant.
Even in her house.
Drug use on general, it's not. It's not a crime of family violence.
Okay.
Okay. So anything else from this witness from you?
No, ma'am, thank you.
Okay. All right. So Mr. Jeffrey, do you have any specific questions you would like to ask this witness?
Yes, ma'am. For Nancy, is she sure 100% that when she heard through the door, someone said, help me, please help me, it wasn't me?
No, it was not you. It was your mother.
And Judge,
Mhm.
I'm actually the one that was yelling, please help me, please help
Okay,
me.
so you'll have a chance to testify, but
Okay.
this is not the time to do that. This is just questions.
Okay.
And so it's like I've explained it,
Mhm.
somebody, this is not the time. You can tell me you believe that, tell me what your version, and everyone can testify what their they
Yes,
want the
ma'am.
court to know when it's
Right.
time, but not agreeing with an answer is not necessarily it's not legally a question.
So my question is then so the question I can ask is she sure that what she heard was my mother screaming and not me?
Yes, and you did. And she said it was.
Great.
So,
And
okay.
and at this time, if my mother was the one that was screaming, is she not we're not going to be able to involve her in this aspect of it because this has been brought up through someone else that heard her screaming and thought it was my mom. So trying to find out if my mom has any say in that or not.
Well, this is this witness's evidence and this witness's testimony.
Mhm.
And so it's not, your mom can ask her a question if she wants, but it is not, your mom's perception is not going to change this witness's testimony.
So I'm not allowed to ask my mom if she remembers that day, and I'm not allowed to ask any questions. This is just for Nancy right now, correct?
This is Nancy right now. We're
Okay.
asking Nancy about her testimony.
Okay. I'm pretty satisfied with that asked then.
Okay,
So-
thank you.
And may I interject at all?
Depends on what you want to interject.
Well, I guess just looking back at that, I think I read there that it said that Scott was upset because he couldn't find his wallet. So I just wanted to mention that if there was screaming, I think that it was possibly related to losing a wallet.
Okay, so this is not the time for that. Okay, so Miss Kathleen Jeffrey, do you have any questions you would like me to ask this witness? We have several different factors, so I can't remember if I asked you that, and I want to make sure I did not skip you.
Just trying to get the
She might be
Her
frozen.
screen's
Yeah, she's frozen again. Miss Kathleen Jeffrey?
Yes. Yes.
Okay, so I'm hearing her on a different one. Since she is a party, what I'm gonna, and maybe y'all have so many people on the Wi-Fi there that it's, her device is frozen where she's at.
She came in the room where I am.
Okay, that's fine since she's a party. She can come in and sit next to you since you're about done.
Okay.
All right, Miss Kathleen Jeffrey, do you have any questions for this witness?
No.
Okay, thank you. So it may be, I don't know what y'all can figure out. The other device seems to be frozen.
No, it was on too long, and so I've got to redo it.
Okay. So, do you want to stay on this device, Miss Jeffrey?
I can. Yes, I can.
Okay, we want to do that. And then since it seems to have a better connection and it seems like everybody is done
Okay,
with this witness, if that's okay. Although now this one seems to have
that's
frozen.
fine.
Well, now this one's frozen. Okay, there we go. All right. Okay. So, Miss,
I'm sorry, Judge Davis, do you want me to remove the other device then?
yeah, let's do that just in case maybe it can lower the or
The
make
bandwidth?
less of a strain on the bandwidth where everybody's at.
Okay.
And that witness is done. Okay. All right. So Miss Kimberly Jeffrey, do you have any other witnesses you would like the court to hear from?
No, I think we're good. Thank you.
Okay. All right. So Mr. Jeffrey,
yes, ma'am.
you now have an opportunity to testify and present any evidence you wish to, if you wish to.
Mhm.
So what would you like the court to know about the allegations that you've heard?
Starting with which allegation first?
You can pick that.
Okay.
Let's start with the acts of family violence against your mother.
Okay. I admit to saying bad things, but I never admit I wasn't in a threatening manner towards my mother. Also, I'd like to add that I never would have kept my mom away from anything, medicine, basically her food, that kind of thing. I definitely had admitted to, like I said, saying, curse words. So with that being said, also, I don't believe that the other witnesses that are testifying, they weren't with me and my mother. So a lot of the things that maybe they heard, I've misconstrued, and it's just, to me, hearsay at this point. So, but I really don't have a lot to say, to be honest with you. I mean, I love my mother dearly. She was with me when my father passed. That was something very personal to me, but I just feel like things were exacerbated based on my dad's death. The fact that I moved in, COVID had hit, I'd lost my business. I'd actually lived in a condo, I'd lost that. So really not anything else. I mean, what they're saying, makes sense, but at the same time, I mean, this is my family. It's my goal to have a family, not to be taken away from my family. And, certainly don't think in the last 30 days that I've thought more about my family and taken accountability. So it's those actions and me taking the accountability. And I mean, I don't really even at this point think it's a good idea for me to be around anybody in my family. So I just think that these orders and the things that they're saying to me are just an exacerbation of emotions. And I know that I'm a better person than this anyways. So, based on a situation where I lived, not communicating with my family directly, having support from my brother structurally, having structured support through my sister-in-law, basically any type of mentoring or saying that I'm better than these things. It just sounds like all they're doing is telling you that I'm, a bad person. I did actually have my mother, tell me that I was stupid. I shouldn't do that. I shouldn't say these things. I don't have any specific anything else specifically to say. So
Okay. What about the allegations of stalking towards Kimberly Jeffrey?
I have no idea where that comes from at all. I'm actually can tell you that this is probably my dad was alive. This is a couple summers ago. I went by her house to visit my mother and father, who on occasion would watch her dogs on trips or during the holidays and such. I went to their house and my mom said, Mark just called and he doesn't, you're in the house and he wants you out of the house. So I don't really know where this stems from because again, I don't communicate with them directly on any type of support and for them to want to be a support structure. So I have no idea. I don't even live near them. I don't go to their house. I don't go by their house for any reason. The only reasons I would have gone there before is if I was invited to family events or for my nephew, my niece or my nephews or that kind of thing. But otherwise, I really don't know where this comes from at all. So, and then when she said that she was worried about my mom, I can understand that, but I definitely have not stalked anybody. So.
All right. Have there been any issues with drug or alcohol abuse as far as you're concerned?
No, ma'am.
All right. Okay. All right. Given everything I've heard, I do not find there's sufficient evidence under the law to issue to extend the stalking order
Yes,
based
ma'am.
on the law and the acts required. So I am going to dismiss that ex parte order.
Yes, ma'am.
But I do find that there have been acts of family violence. It doesn't have to be putting hands on people. It can be placing someone in fear for their safety. And sometimes even when someone says they're not in fear, their acts show otherwise. And
Can I ask you a question then? So if that's the case, then why would my mom always say that she doesn't want to do this to me? She doesn't want
well,
to do
I'm not
this.
going to answer that. I think
Okay.
as a mom, moms don't like having to go through this sort of thing.
I got you.
But I find based on different witnesses' testimony that there have been acts of family violence. This does not mean someone is a bad person. It does not mean that someone wants things to be this way. It just means that people may need a break. And
Right.
so at this point, I am issuing this order because I feel like there could be acts. There's a reasonable likelihood if everybody is in the same place again, things may continue.
I'm
and
not
this
going to be in
takes-
the same place as them. I
I
actually
know,
moved.
sir,
I moved away.
Sir, I
Okay.
understand that, but I'm
Mhm.
still, for the next 12 months, I'm going to put this in place because I feel like there's been evidence that this has been going on. And that there hasn't been anything while the order's been in place, and that seems to have helped. So
Sure.
I am issuing this order. You're not to come, while the order is in place, you're not to come within 100 yards of your mother, her residence, workplace or school, if that is appropriate. Or any subsequent residence, workplace or school, not have any communication, direct or indirect, with her, and not, let's see, do you have any property still at the residence?
Yes, ma'am. This is something I failed to bring up, but I've been told over and over and over in different texts and ways that I was supposed to come get my stuff. So I'm a little
Okay.
bit. Yeah.
So what I'm gonna do is I will allow one time only to be arranged in advance with law enforcement, and I'll put the phone number on there. To be arranged in advance with law enforcement when accompanied by law enforcement on or before June 15th.
Would it be possible at all to up that date? He was given a move out.
So no,
notice.
I'm gonna leave it at June 15th because there's a lot of people in similar situations and we only have so many law enforcement who can assist people. Okay,
Ma'am, may I
So-
ask a question?
hold on, y'all let me get this order out, please,
No
okay?
problem. Mhm.
With law enforcement escort, you need to arrange everything. They're not movers, but they can be present while this happens. And parties will not sell, encumber, damage, or trade the joint property of either parties or the petitioner's property. I am gonna order the Family Violence Intervention Program because I feel like it could be helpful for future relationships. And so the first compliance date for that will be June 9th, 2023. It will be virtual. If you stay on, we'll place you in a room with a compliance officer who can give you information on how to get started on that course. And while this order is in effect, you cannot own a firearm under federal law. All right. Any questions, sir? I know you had a question.
I was just wondering, I had not the finances and such to be able to get somebody to represent. And at this time, I feel like that, I don't know how to say this, but is there any way to bring further recourse for me as far as
you can speak. So this is the court's order at this time. There's been a hearing. You did not mention anything at this point. We are where we are at. You are free to.
And for those extra people in your life, like Uncle Vinny and your sister-in-law, make sure to include them in the celebration and always remind them that you abused their eldest daughter and bring it up in your sworn testimony. They will love it. In DeKalb County, we trust you will make the right choice and understand that this was always needed because you are just a jackass that needs therapy. So stay away from Mom and call the sheriff to get your rare Beanie Babies and Star Wars figures because you only have one shot to get them out. Don't forget to like and subscribe to Time Served. Happy Mother's Day, everyone!